Okay, got the Astro Observers for June 2021 observing reports, and this is a whole lot, but do have a new telescope, and it's the Sky-watcher EvoStar 120 f7.5 ED Apo with an upgraded focuser. Really nice scope. I had it here. I was using it this night with the Celestron Advanced Series Go-To, and it was a perfect match for it. Scope is great. I mean, its optics are just razor sharp, true, high contrast, pinpoint stars, and as we know, like refractors like this, high-end refractors like this, they tend to punch above what their aperture is. It's, of course, 120 millimeters, or about almost 4 3/4. So here's the focuser that I upgraded with, and it's funny because I wanted to go with Moonlight, and because they're right here in Pennsylvania, and I could have taken the scope up there, but believe it or not, Moonlight is not doing manual focusers anymore, or at this time. Has to do with material and so on. So I actually, so I searched on the web which is the match for the telescope and like that, and it was actually a company called First Light Optics from the UK that had this focuser, and it was for the EvoStars. So ordered it and exchanged the, and it's a great focuser. It rotates. You can see here at the top here is thumb screw here, so you can rotate the focuser. So it's really nice, really nice. Great match for the telescope. And then so this was a galaxy log, and it was actually not only first view of the night. This was actually first official light of the telescope. This is on June 5th. Now it was a clear night, and the humidity was up a little bit, and there was a little bit of haze in the air, but it wasn't too bad. And that part of the sky, at Hawk Mountain, is actually pretty good there. So it really gave a really nice view, 5907. I mean, it was just beautiful view. This is with a 12 millimeter eyepiece, and it was like 75 magnification. So it was kind of like really perfect. It was like, okay, this scope's rocking. Then I went into Lyra, and of course M57. So I was kind of like looking at objects that I'm familiar with. So that way you can really get an idea on, when you have a new telescope, of what the optics are like, especially when you have a lot of other telescopes. Most of them are larger. All of them actually, no, all except one, are larger. And of course, a lot of telescopes from the past. So it's a good way on a very familiar object to get an idea of what I had here. So I first, had the telescope go using an Orion Sirius 20 millimeter, which gave me 45 magnification. It gave almost a view like you're seeing here as far as the field and like that. Just beautiful big field, and there was the Ring Nebula. But then I used a 4 millimeter ultra wide eyepiece at 225 and brought up the nebula, and you could just it was really a great view of the nebula itself. It wasn't faint. You could really see some nice detail in the ring. Really great. And then this was also from a Galaxy Log 2. Was NGC 6207, of course, which is near a background galaxy, of course, from the Hercules M13 Hercules cluster. And so here I have two different views of the 12 millimeter at 75 magnification. So here's the cluster, and then up here to the northeast is the galaxy. And then I pumped up the magnification up to 129 power, and here's the galaxy here. Again, it stood out really well. Of course, you had that false stellar nucleus, which is actually a field star that's slightly north of center. But as far as the Hercules cluster, it resolved it really well. It really resembled a lot of what you see in this image over here. So it was really, scope was really humming at this point. then I want to do double star. Of course, refractors, a lot of people like to do double stars and like that. And double star that I haven't seen for a long time. And it's, I mean, if you guys never seen 95 Hercules, it's a beautiful double star. So here I have on this side here is a sketch taken with a 10-inch Dob at 190 power. And over here, from Damien Peach, who's very well known to take some of the most beautiful planetary images. Here's a photo of it, and you could actually see the color. And in the telescope here, I used 7mm, which is 129 magnification, and it was really beautiful. You could see the colors. This star, you could see that it definitely had like a copperish red color to it. The other one had a kind of a bluish green or a blue color to it. Beautiful color contrast. So in this drawing over here, the guy caught it really well of what it is. So if you want to look at a really nice, colorful, beautiful double star this time of year, this is one here, 95 Hercules.
And is that fairly tight, Carl?
No, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Now he caught this is 190. This is what he saw at 190 magnification.
Okay.
And I was using just around 100, almost 130, and I was able to split it no problem too. I thought that at 130 they were a little closer together, but there was some separation, so there was some black between it. But boy, you could really see that color contrast, and it really just stood out. So, and as you guys well know, the more aperture you're using, the more intense the colors are going to be. Here, I think with a refractor like this, even though it's not a large telescope, that intensity of contrast with that really dark background really brought out the colors. And of course, I thought it was a really good magnification to use, that the stars were close enough together to really catch that contrast of color. So definitely go for this one if you want to look at a double star. And then this was one when I was out with Josh that one night that we had like 2 hours of observing, whatever. This was one of my favorite views that night. And this was M71, a glob, and I had the 10 Pentax in there at 90 magnification, and it was an awesome view. It was really beautiful. I think I mentioned to Josh too. There was always some debate going back and forth whether this was a galactic, open cluster within the Milky Way, or was it a globular cluster? It's a globular cluster. But it's really neat though that you got to look through a rich region of the Milky Way to see it, and of course you have this magnificent star field all around it. So that was probably one of my favorite views that night, and it was hard to pull my eye from the eyepiece. So
is it located above the plane of the galaxy?
Well, just I guess would be just below the Cygnus arm. So I guess we're looking through the Cygnus arm to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a glob. So that's what the experts say, but it's a globular cluster. And then of course, when you're in that area, you want to go, like I said, I've been going for some familiar objects with the first couple of times out with the telescope, and of course M27. Now I have what I'm talking about here with really high magnification, just under 300 magnification, which was really a cool view. And of course, I stepped up. I went from low magnification around 45, and I went up to about 100 or excuse me, 100. And then I jumped it up to like 155. Then I went up to this 281, and the nebula was just beautiful. And at 281 like that, I was actually seeing the central star, which is just around 14th magnitude. So, but yeah, there was some nice detail. They use a nebula filter or anything like that, just straight through the eyepiece, and it really was a great view. Some really nice structure within the dumbbell. So definitely better than 6
able to see what I call the football extension.
Yeah, you could actually see some of that extension. Yep, I can actually see some of that extension. You're talking about this area out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There's like the dumbbell extension, which is the classic one, and then I call it the football one.
Right. Right. Well, you could see that it was, well, I guess what I'm saying is that it wasn't just seeing the brightest parts of it. You could actually see the dimmer regions. So it was more round than it was, being this right.
Yep.
So it was a really good view. It really was a good view. And then one of my favorite planetary nebulas, NGC 7008. And here again, it was really a great view. I was actually seeing some structural detail within the nebula. I could see the central star, which is like 13.5 magnitude. That was no problem to see the central star. And that was at 129 power. You could see the blue gold double star next to it. Really a nice view. I really like this view. I've always loved this view of this. No matter what telescope. As far as you get into the large telescopes, man, I'll tell you, some detail can be seen in this, even without using a nebula filter. So, but it definitely is one of my favorite planetary nebulas. And then, of course, we had to look at Saturn. It was funny because I was making a joke with my wife. I was saying, I wonder if they actually named this object after the Saturn Nebula. She thought that was pretty funny. Me, deep sky over planetary. But no, I obviously, I wanted to look at Saturn. It was right there, and like, okay. And I used a 4mm eyepiece, so it was like 225 power. And it was this was actually what the position of the moons were that night. And I could see the moons. I think the Hyperion I wasn't able to see, but the rest of them I was able to see. And there's some nice detail on Saturn, really nice detail on Saturn. So yeah, it's here again, high quality optics, refractor. A lot of people love to look at the planets with it. So of course that's what I did. I went for Saturn. So it was a great view. It really was.
So how was the seeing that night?
The seeing was pretty darn good that night. That was the night it was a little more haze in the air. So you know how sometimes that can be, where the transparency might be off a little bit.
Yeah.
But the seeing was really good. And the seeing was really good. And Saturn's low. I think it's in Capricorn right now. So
right. That's where it is. Yep. Yeah.
And then my last view of the night before I broke down, I did look at, even though I don't have it here, I did look at the Veil Nebula, and I had the nebula filter in, and I talk about it here on Galaxy Log, because this is my near view image from Galaxy Log. And I great view of the Veil Nebula. You can see some nice detail. I had an Orion Ultra Block in there. And I mentioned it because many of us done this before. I've done it. I think Rob, you've done it. I'm not sure, Josh, if you ever done it, but left your filter in and then look for it at a galaxy. You're thinking, does that galaxy look dimmer? And so I just said that, I was there looking at the Veil. I had the Orion Ultra Block in there, great view of the Veil Nebula. And I said, okay, well, while I'm at the Veil, nearby is this galaxy, NGC 7013. So I said, okay, that'd be a great last view of the night. And that's what I went for. And it's a really cool galaxy. In fact, in Galaxy Log, I actually, I have, of course, more galaxies. I actually have Galaxy, as I said, because it's a new telescope, I wanted to look at some familiar objects to get an idea of what I have. And so I looked at one of my other favorite galaxies is NGC 6503 in Draco. And what's interesting, when you look at 6503, it has that bright goldish field star. Mm-hmm. This one does, it's not quite as bright, but it does have this kind of goldish field star nearby, and it seems to hang off of it. But it is a really nice galaxy. And I mentioned in Galaxy Log that if you are looking at the Veil Nebula, and of course you're probably most likely using, a nebula filter, a high contrast filter, you may make sure if you're going to go to this galaxy to take that filter out, because definitely you'll be able to see the galaxy much better without the filter than with the filter. Rob, have you done that before? Have you?
I've not done that. I thought maybe you did. I just leave my cap on and try to look through
Oh,
the
that's true.
eyepiece.
That's true. That's even a worse filter.
I've done both.
Okay, you've done both. Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay, so
Leave the filter on, and it was interesting when you're talking about what was it 7008
right.
and that golden blue star. I was trying to remember if I had seen that golden blue star alongside it, and I can't remember that. And that I think it's because I typically I'm probably looking at that with the filter on, which just kills all the star color.
Right, right. But the
Like I
thing
gotta
is,
try that without the filter.
Yeah, I was thinking the
Look
same
at it
thing.
without-
I'm not real familiar with that golden blue combination star. At least I don't recall it.
yeah, look at it without a filter on, because
Yeah.
it is a galaxy. It's a nebula that can react very well without a filter. With a
Yeah.
filter, of course, yes, like that. But especially with large, I mean, I was not using a filter, and I was using a 120 millimeter telescope, and was actually getting a great view of it without a filter. So with our larger scopes, like my 22 or 20 Rob and the 25 for Josh, it's a spectacular object even without a filter like that. So you can go back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that with a lot of planetary nebulas, especially the brighter planetaries. You don't really need to drop a filter in there. Very few planetaries that I actually drop a filter in. Helix, of course, like that, but smaller planetaries, I really like without a filter, and especially with the larger scopes and pump magnification. But this guy here, though, is a really cool galaxy. And you're thinking it's a galaxy, it's kind of out of place when you think of galaxies. It's not. It's like a hot skip and a jump away from the Veil Nebula, and it really looked great. I mean, has a nice elongated shape to it, had a little stellar nucleus. Seen it, of course, in the 22, and you can actually see some interstructural detail with it. So it's a great galaxy to go for. But like I said, if you're in that region, most people are looking at the Veil Nebula. Make sure they pull out the nebula filter before you go for the galaxy. So that's it. Let's see, stuff share. I'll tell you. So the conclusion is, I really like the scope a lot.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and it's nice. It does really well on the alt azimuth mount. I have a Twilight One Explore Scientific mount, and it does really well on that also. The slow motion controls comes in a nice case, so I'll be able to transport it easily with the larger scopes, and as a sidekick with the larger scopes. So yeah, I'm real pleased with it. Real pleased.
I think the 22 would make a really good mount for that.
Yeah, there you go. I already have an 80 millimeter refractor on top of that. So
I used to really enjoy when I had the 16 Zambudo. I had the 80 millimeter finder scope on it.
Yeah.
And that again was on the ground observing.
Right.
And there was no go-to on that telescope, and it was really so much fun to star hop with that telescope through that 80 millimeter finder and with your feet on the ground. It was just I'd like to get that set up again.
Yeah, I really, because on my 80 millimeter finder on the 22, I have a Rigel quick finder on top of the finder itself, so I'm able to easily get into the field with it. And I'll tell you that 80 millimeter, no matter, even if I'm at a lesser dark site, you can really, and if you're looking at star hopping with the using the uranometria, it really makes it easier.
Oh, it was almost an identical
you can see,
one.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's right, because that 80 millimeter can easily pick up, 10, 11, 12 magnitude stars. So
yeah, all those patterns in uranometria, it was like you were looking at the page through the finder scope. I remember it was just so much fun to star hop because of how accurate that view was with the, I would put a 25 millimeter eyepiece in the 80 millimeter finder scope, and it was just an exact match to uranometria.
Right. And what's nice, like for me too, because the 22 is an f4.5, so it's long. Its focal length is about the same as Josh's 25 f4, and so not having digital setting circles or GoTo, it makes it so much easier to locate faint objects with that 80 millimeter finder. Because you can say, oh, there's a faint, especially also when sometimes if I'm going for something really faint and it's a tough area, I'll actually have a photograph that I'll print out from like Wick of Sky or something like that, and try to match the fainter stars to that to see where the galaxy is. And that really helped me actually when I was doing some of those background galaxies in the Beehive cluster.
Well, go ahead, Josh.
I was gonna say it's interesting you guys say that about the 80 because that's why I like the 60, because I for the longest time I used Uranometria and I always felt like the 60 gave me the perfect imprint. It's probably observer dependent too.
I agree with you, Josh. I think for scopes that are say 12-inch and larger, I think a 60 really makes a lot of sense. It does.
Yeah, it
weight
just
wise,
always match up perfect with that.
Right, weight wise, something like that. Yeah, I thought about it too. I thought about maybe going back down to a 60. But for right now, I really like the 80 and the way it's set up. Like I said, with the Roger Quick Finder on top, and I can actually get to that field real quick that way, and then. It's really interesting too, especially if you're going for some of the brighter galaxies. You can actually see some of those galaxies in the 80 millimeter. So that's what's nice about it.
Yeah, that was always a good feature too, was being able to see the object more quickly,
right,
to identify. Yep. But back to the photographs, I was mentioning to Josh one time when we were talking not too long ago. Last year when I was up in the Adirondacks, I had my refractor with me, and I got hit with a double whammy where the go-to wouldn't work, and then when I went to set it up, the finder scope fell apart in my hands. Like the glass just came out. It came loose. The eyepiece came loose. So I had nothing. I had no finder scope, and I had no go-to, and I was under really pristine skies, and I was been waiting. For a long time to have, good optics under those skies. So I was really deflated. But then I thought, well, you have to do, there's nothing you can do. You have to make the most of what you have. So, I found some of the usual objects just by hunting around for them. And I spent a lot of time in Sagittarius where you could find all those globs and, nebula. But I started to want to see other things. So I ended up putting in like a 35 millimeter eyepiece, and I was using photographs from Sky Safari. So I was actually just like pulling up the object, going into the DSS image, looking at the photograph, and matching up the view on the photograph to the image in the eyepiece, and was able to start star hopping that way. It was a slow process, but I started finding objects that I wasn't going to be able to find without trying to do that. So sometimes those photographs can really be helpful, as well.
Yep, definitely.
All right,
Rob, you're up.
Yep, I don't have much.
That's fine.
Okay, so this is an area of the sky that that I need to spend more time in. So this is what I intend to do come July. I haven't been in Ophiuchus too much over the last 2 years, and I don't think I've used my, I know I haven't used my new refractor in there yet, and I'm not even sure how many objects I've seen through the 20 through there. So it's just an area of the sky that I need to spend more time in. So that's what I'm going to do this coming dark window. So this is like one of my Carnac routines, Carl. So. So Josh is too young to know
There's Johnny.
Is, so I'll have to send you a video clip, Josh. But anyway,
all right, you can bring me up to speed then.
I will. So the answer is Ophiuchus. Okay.
And I'm the globular clusters.
And the question is, what does an amateur astronomer yell when clouds come in during the middle of a great observing session?
But that's weird then, because I must spell Ophiuchus with an F.
I should have put up as an amateur astronomer yell when it's cloudy for 2 straight weeks or 2 straight dark windows
Right.
in a row. But anyway, so yeah, so I want to spend a little more time in there. So, you know, for anyone watching this who isn't sure where Ophiuchus is, it's a big constellation, and it's down here next to Sagittarius, and tons and tons of globs in there. So what I want to look at first, I've been intrigued by this M107. I haven't looked at it for a long time. And Carl or Josh, if you guys want to comment on any views you've had of this, but it's pretty intriguing object, and it looks like a really neat glob that I don't think I've spent a lot of time observing lately. Have either of you pulled that in lately?
I did. The last time I saw M107, it was from our Dark Site 1 mount, our location, and using my homemade 12.5.
Okay.
A lot of globs in that area.
Yeah. Just
because you always had a good part of the sky there, like that at one time. It was, you know, you didn't have any trees or nothing like that, so you get pretty low down.
Yeah, and I could never get this part of the sky from my yard, so this is something I want to check this out. And then the other one is this one I'm not really familiar with. Do you of you know this one, 6369?
Yeah, again, it's been a long time.
Yeah,
a long time. I think it was probably DS Edge that looked at this.
I think this would be a new object for me. I'll have to check my notes, but I don't recall looking at this, and I was reading up about it a little bit. It looks like a really interesting planetary.
Yeah.
You know, it's faint, obviously, but I definitely want to check that out. I would need the 20 for that one.
Yep.
And then the last two are just, you know, two very popular globs, M10 and M12. It should be, yeah. I think 10 is the more compact, tighter of the two. I think these have probably been overlooked for me when I'm out in the summertime looking for objects to observe. So I want to get down into Sagittarius, and I also want to spend more time in Ophiuchus. And then typical observing session, pull up a few summer galaxies in Cygnus or Lyra. Josh, I think you've been working on objects in Lyra, right? Galaxies in Lyra?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm poking away at that.
Yeah, I looked at a few of them when we were out last dark window, I think. We're back, I guess it would have been the March dark window. But anyway, that's basically it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, Rob, when you talk about if I've seen M107 recently. I'm not sure if I've ever seen that object.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because each year I keep telling myself I'm going to do a Messier marathon, and I never really do it. And it's kind of funny. I think 05 was when I first started my adventures into astronomy. And for as many M objects as I've observed, I know there's a lot of them that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of these years I'm going to do a Messier marathon just to visually see them all and
right.
make sure that I've done it.
Well, maybe we should do. It's March is usually when we'll have to plan. You know, maybe we'll do that together. I'd love to do it. I've never done one, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, you got to find the right location so you got your horizon set properly, and then I think there's a time frame where you really got to run and gun,
right.
And then you can kind of take a little breather and poke through some, and then there toward the morning you're kind of running and gunning again.
Right.
So I've never committed to doing it, but I feel like I should.
Yeah. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the toughest part of it is the Virgo cluster. We're getting the galaxies in the Virgo cluster.
Oh, okay.
That's what I hear. I don't know.
Trying to identify them.
Yeah, identify which ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, Josh.
Go. So I only have one object for this month, and that's pretty much because I didn't really get a chance to get a whole lot of observing, go ultra deep, that sort of thing. I had that one night up at Hawk Mountain with Carl where we got started late because of a late moon set. And then I had one night out at the High Knob, and the night at High Knob was pretty good. It seemed fairly mediocre following that epic night I had in the previous dark window, but there was still a lot of good sky conditions to work with, and saw a group of galaxies that caught my attention. I was working the Corona Borealis neck of the woods and pretty much just picked away at that area and saw this chain of 5 galaxies. And it's just a pretty view. It's got that bright field star. And this picture here, I forgot to note, this is from WikiSky. Just a screenshot of the WikiSky. But it's the NGC 6107-0509 group. And you got the 2 PGC galaxies immersed in there. And one of the things that I found kind of interesting about this, if I bring up Sky Safari, I'm going to try to do this. You guys can let me know if this is sharing properly. You got the Sky Safari chart on the screen there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if you look at the PGC galaxy, it is 430 million light years. And you look at the other PGC galaxy, it's also 430 million light years. And the magnitude differs by just a small percentage, 16.37 and 16.56. So it makes you wonder what their relationship is. It's just kind of interesting to hit 2 of a similar magnitude and have them be similar light years away. So it's a good view as you work through, because you got these brighter anchor galaxies to kind of help guide you. You got 6109 is 12.82, 6107 13.75, and 6105 is 15.4. So you got a slight range of magnitudes there, and then these 2 dimmer ones. So if you want to kind of see what the scope is capable of under the conditions, it's a good little run. There's a lot of other galaxies, as you can see here on the chart, quite a few other galaxies in and around that area. I didn't get carried away trying to pick them apart or find any of them. The 5 just framed up real nice, gave a real pretty view. So I just enjoyed that view, but I want to get back and pick it apart. There is this edge on up here.
Josh, go back to the Sky Safari if you can.
Yep.
So those 5 galaxies on the left that make that kind of backwards C.
Yep.
It looks like Corona Borealis.
Yeah. How faint are those guys?
1597, 16.4, 15.9, 1607, 16.6. So it's a faint. That's a faint ring of them.
Yeah.
But that's funny though. It does look like the constellation.
Yes. Yeah. So that could be on my short list for the next run.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
yeah,
that was about as deep as I got for this round, and 16.5 was about where I was bottoming out, which is about half to 0.8 magnitude less than what I can typically get from that site. So it wasn't the best of nights, but it was good. I was able to get quite a few objects logged and stumbled across this little group of them. So I listed that on the interesting objects in Corona list. So it's one to check out.
Yeah, there's it's an interesting constellation, because you have, was it Abel 2065, which is of course the Corona Borealis, and that's always been a great challenge for a lot of observers to see any of the galaxies there, and see what's the smallest scope that you can actually see any of the brighter galaxies. I think I tried with a 12.5 years ago from our dark side 2 area unsuccessfully. I've seen them with the 22 from there, but not with the 12.5. But it'd be interesting to see if, say, like my new 12 from something like Cherry Springs or a dark site like that can pick up some of those galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, if you're in that constellation, you know, Corona Borealis galaxy cluster is something to really go for. It's always been one of those visual challenges for visual observers like us. So,
one of the views that I'm looking for, I would love to find like a 4 or 5 galaxy group that has like perfect like 0.2 or 0.5 magnitude increments to just be able to just look down a chain of galaxies and just watch them get you know, dimmer with each progression, to just kind of get a mental image of exactly what that difference is. You know, if you use like a telescope calculator when you're looking to buy a new telescope and you're like, oh, well, you know, this one will show 0.2, 0.5, you know, 0.8, full magnitude more. You know, what exactly does that look like in the eyepiece? So as I just kind of poke around at the edges of the universe here, looking for some of the dim stuff, I keep waiting for that view where it's just like this nice incremental,
right,
you know, dimming of like a chain of galaxies.
Right.
And then like, I think it'd just be fun if,
Yep.
you know, I'm sure it exists somewhere. It's just a
yeah,
matter
you probably
finding it.
right, probably like maybe even the fall sky, you might be able to find something, you know, where there's
Yep.
more galaxies to go for, or the spring. Maybe
Yeah, the Hicksons, they vary. They can vary somewhat.
Yes.
But
Yep.
but a Hickson might be one where you might be able to do that.
Yep.
All righty. Well, I guess then that's it for this Astro Observers.